Swing, a weak grounder to short. Farmer in, he has it to first, and that's it! A no-hitter for Wade Miley!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of Late Night Reds Talk here on the Locker Room app. We have some people in the chat. We're excited about that. Gunner, Will, if anyone else joins us, feel free to ask questions throughout the process of the conversation. We'd love to have you. Carlos, when you go back and you remember looking from a Wade's no-hitter Friday, I know he threw about 124 pitches, I think it was. What do you take away? What do you from Wade's performance that night?
It was fun to watch, man. It was like old school baseball. Just keep missing the bats by just a little bit. I know we've talked in the past about missing the bats and putting ball in play, early contact. And Wade was the gift that old head scouts have been talking about. Let him make good pitches in the zone, let them put the ball in play, and let your defense work. And that's exactly what he did. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think, Nick, obviously just watching him consistently, he doesn't stop when he's on the mound, as we saw, obviously. He just catches the ball, throws a pitch, catches the ball, throws a pitch, takes the signal and throws. And maybe it seemed like everything that him and Tucker called, he went with. I don't know if they shook each other off at all through the game.
Yeah, you can't even get a sip of your drink in when you're watching Wade Miley pitch. I'll look down and get a sip, and I'll look if he's throwing another pitch. He works incredible, and I feel like he was even at a faster pace. I feel like I saw that early in the game. I think it definitely plays into his strengths. The Indians hitters really looked lost. I just hope, I hate to be the party pooper. I hope that, Wade's already getting pushed back a day. I hope this doesn't impact him, him pitching, way deeper than he'll probably pitch again this year. But he was on and you could really tell, Tucker Barnhart said it was the coolest thing he'd ever been a part of. So, I think it was definitely a good, bonding moment or whatever for the team. But yeah, he's not just a no-hitter. He's just been spectacular this year. You can't say enough good things about what he's been able to do.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I went to his first start of the year against the Pirates, and I think he went about 5 innings that game, but he was awesome. That was one of the Trevor Cahill 14-1 wins. That was the Tyler Naquin 2 home run game, and he was awesome that night. So I know for a lot of Reds fans, he wasn't the sexiest signing when they got him in the 2020 offseason, especially compared to all the guys they got. But and last year he was battling injury there for a bit, but like you said, he's come out this year and he's been awesome. I really like the story about him and his kid with the Incredible Hulk temporary tattoo. And that was pretty neat. Just kind of made for a fun story, but also got to pinch hit today. So kudos to Wade on a very fun week. So nicely done, man. Also got National League Player of the Week. So I forgot about that too. So yes, like you said, Dick, he does get pushed back to Friday. But how about that cut he had today? Anything but a double play would have done, and he got a nice pop fly. So I like that at bat he had.
Yeah, nice. Nice job coming in, putting the ball in play. He can swing the bat a little bit. I don't, especially with Garrett being out and you really have a short bench. I don't know about 14 pitchers all year. I just feel like, man, do we really need that many to where we're running out of position players hitting? It just, it didn't cost the Reds at all today, but, I don't know about that going forward if you really need 14. What do you think about that, Carlos?
That's a lot of pitchers, man. I don't think they need that many either. They need that many. They're in trouble. That's excessive. That's too many, but I understand the Wade Miley pinch hitting and, watching other games and stuff and when it's getting out of hand or, just too many players throwing a hitter in there. How many times have we seen Clayton Kershaw bat, this year already?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, I guess the manager's got to do what they got to do, but not mad at it. It's just, I just don't see the need for having that many pitchers. I don't understand why. Like, because extra innings aren't going that long anymore. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think I
know.
might understand it more if there wasn't the 3-batter minimum where,
Yeah.
hey, you can really mix and match with these guys. Hey, any advantage you can get's a good one. But I mean, these guys will have to go 3 batters. I don't know. I'm hoping it's maybe just an early part of the year thing, trying to save guys' arms, and then maybe we kind of get later in the season they'll get back to having those extra players. So I think the Reds have some guys like Scott Heineman, sitting down in AAA that could probably help the team, especially pinch hitting against left-handed pitchers.
Yeah,
So I've got a question. I don't know. I should probably know this, but so since Amir got suspended, are they able to fill his roster spot, or is that a spot that they're without?
No, they have to bite that. So I mean, obviously, it makes sense to have 14 pitchers on the roster now, but yeah, you have to bite that. That's why when I don't know if you remember when the big Pirates fight, that's why they staggered the suspensions. So they'd only have one player missing at a time. They're not going to let them miss more than one at a time. But yeah,
Okay.
any suspension like that, where I think it's like an on-field discipline, you go without. Now, if it's like obviously you don't go 60 or 80 games if someone gets busted for steroids. You don't go 80 games without a player. But any of those on-field ones, yeah. So the Reds are without. But I mean, again, they're just not having 14 pitchers. I think they'll probably survive.
Yeah, I agree. So let's kind of move real quick. I know we've talked about this for a couple weeks now. I know Nick has been talking about wanting this for about a year now. But we're really starting to see Nick Senzel show his defensive skill set. Honestly, he's been really good since he got moved to the leadoff spot, too. I know he went 0 for 5 today, but he did score the winning run because that's baseball in 2021. But I think it's really cool that the Reds have a guy like that to where they can put him in the in the middle infield. He can play center. And he came useful twice today in the field. But going into today, he was hitting really well. I'm not going to obviously fault him for an 0 for 5 game once, but I think that you're starting to see his maturity level, his development. I mean, today was his 160th major league game, so I know I made that mention last week. He hasn't even played a full major league season yet, technically, by game. So when you're seeing what's coming from him, you're seeing him develop. You're seeing his confidence come along. Chris Welsh talked about that a little bit in the broadcast today. What jumps out to you guys the most about the development of Nick Senzel so far this year?
Well, I think his ability to play 2 positions and play them really well defensively is just so impressive. He is just a incredibly gifted athlete. Now,
Yeah.
maybe stealing bases isn't his thing, but he's very fast. And man, he makes it look easy, transitioning from second to center field. And I'm just so glad. And I'm trying to just, be positive and look forward. But, think of all those, one run games that they lost where they had Kyle Farmer in the lineup, not at shortstop. I'm all for Kyle Farmer at shortstop,
Same.
don't get me wrong. But when Kyle Farmer is playing third base, and you could have had Senzel either there or India sliding over or whatever. Man, that's those are some games that I hope don't come back to haunt the Reds. But yeah, they're finally, I think, getting the most value for Senzel. I mean, Senzel's showing some positive signs, but I think at this point, it's probably safe to not expect that Nick Senzel is going to be a star hitter. I don't think there's enough. I think we've seen enough at this point to say, yeah, he's not projecting anymore to be a star hitter. Now, can he be a solid player? Yeah. And if he can play 2 positions, that just increases his value even more. And I think maybe that's what the Reds are realizing. Maybe that's why they didn't want him bouncing back and forth, because they're like, well, hey, he's going to be our centerpiece. We want him in one position. I think they're realizing, yeah, Nick Senzel's not going to be the guy we can build our team around, but he's a guy that we can sign guys and have the flexibility to move him around, and that just makes him so much more valuable. So, kudos to him for accepting the role and thriving with it. And I hope they continue to use that, and I hope they continue to try to find players with position flexibility, because it just makes your team that much stronger.
Yeah, it almost feels like you're filling out like a fantasy baseball lineup when you get those guys that are like first base, second base, third base, first base outfield, catcher outfield. You're like, yeah, this is cool. Like, it almost kind of gives you that feeling there. I'm curious for your, Nick, because you say you don't expect him to be, quote, a star hitter. But you expect him, you believe he'll be an above average hitter, and you think he's a really good defender, as you talked about. Like, to me, I kind of feel like now his ceiling is potential National League All-Star. I mean, Zach Kozart made an All-Star team. You know what I mean? He had a really good year that year. He made an All-Star team, but he made an All-Star team and wasn't. And I feel like Senzel can project to be a better hitter than him. Like, where do you see his ceiling for his major league career necessarily?
Well, I probably would have said his ceiling was maybe a 900 OPS when he came into the league. Now I'd probably say it's an 800 OPS. I mean, and that's no slouch. I mean, that's that's a pretty good hitter. He had a 982 OPS in Dayton. Pensacola, he was 973. So, I mean, I think we thought that maybe he could push a 900 OPS. But yeah, I mean, I would say if everything goes right, I just don't see the power there. Now, maybe that develops. But I don't see enough of the power for him to really put up those gaudy numbers. And if he had a 2016 Zach Kozart season, Zach Kozart 933 OPS, that would be pretty incredible. But I think that was kind of more of a one of those just, everything came together type season.
Yeah.
I still don't. You look at Zach Kozart's baseball reference page, and that season it does not match up with his career at all. I don't know how that happened. Good for him. I mean, he made a ton of money off of it. He made a ton of money off of it.
And a position change.
Yeah. Good for him. But, if the Reds ever get that out of Nick Senzel, I'd be very surprised if he put up that kind of season. But you never know. I'd love to be wrong.
So, Carlos, let me ask you this, because Nick brought it up a little bit, where Senzel's this really good base runner, but for some reason can't steal. Have you ever seen a guy that fast who's struggled that much to steal bases?
Yeah. Chris Dickerson was that way. I mean,
really?
That guy, he could fly. He could fly in the outfield. I don't know what his stolen base numbers were in the big leagues. I just know in the big leagues or in the minors, he was always getting caught trying to steal bases, and he was fast out of the box. He could turn a single into a double like no other. He could stretch a double into a triple. Like I said, he was tracking balls down in the gaps, but the guy he couldn't steal second base. And it's just their first couple of steps. That's all it's about. I mean, every great base stealer will tell you it's the first couple of steps, and it's not there for either one of them. And yeah, I mean, the numbers show he's got to give that a rest. It's not there for him.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be close to 70%. I know Chris Wells mentioned on the broadcast, but you have to be close to 70% for it to be a break even point. And I don't know. I mean, you look at where he's hitting in the lineup. I mean, he's hitting in front of Winker and Castellanos, who half of their hits are extra base hits. And that's not an exaggeration. I'm looking it up right now. Literally about half of their hits are extra base hits. So, man, you better really have a good lead. You better feel like you've stolen one off the pitcher if you're going to steal, just because at the rate he's at right now, it's not a good risk for the Reds.
Yeah, it reminds me almost of like it's coming around, like how the no bunting, the thing was several years back. Like, it took so long for managers to realize that, hey, bunting your guy over with nobody out to get one out with a guy on second base, it lessens your odds on scoring than, nobody out with a runner on first. And they're like slowly getting there. Like, hey guys, you don't need to steal second base. It's not that big of a difference, especially when you have guys that are on base machines. Like, you don't need to do that. Don't make it out unless you know you're going to get there, like you said, 70% of the time, because you're just costing your team's outs and runs. And I feel like it's slowly catching on, and it's getting there, and it'll get there soon.
Will, Gunnar, Max, if you guys have any questions you want to ask us while you're here, first off, thanks for joining us. By all means, we're happy to answer anything you guys send us. But let's kind of keep this positive Reds at bats and offense going, guys. As we saw today, one former Sam LeCure mentioned that maybe the Reds' best lineup was without Eugenio Suarez, and he responded with a multi-hit game, including the game-winning base-clearing double in extra innings. So, Nick, Gino had a very nice series. He was starting to kind of, looked like he was getting a little more confident. We obviously got that really funny clip of him in the dugout where after he was celebrating when Senzel scoring the go-ahead run. But, you have been pro. This is going to turn around for Eugenio Suarez. His career trajectory shows that this is just a blip in the radar. So, how confident are you feeling in the start, hopefully, of the turnaround of Gino's season?
I'm 100% confident that Eugenio Suarez at the end of the year will be an above-average hitter. 100%. Now, is he going to be the 2019, 2018? 900 OPS guy. I don't know about that, but I don't think he needs to be that. I think if he can get close to an 800 OPS, maybe get a little above it. He wasn't that far off last year. I think he was 780 something. That is plenty good enough for this team with the guys that are going to be hitting in front of him. He's just, he had a slow start last year. He's had a slow start this year. I think people make too big of a deal with how bad a player looks when they're going bad. Like when you're going bad, you look bad. Like you're not going to look good. I don't remember too many players that, are striking out and that look good striking out. It's just one of those things. The way he provides his value is power. So when, we saw with Adam Dunn. Adam Dunn, when he looked bad, he looked really bad.
Yeah.
But man, when he looked good, when he looked good, oh man, and I think that's what you're going to see with this team this year. I think Winker's probably the one guy you're probably going to be able to count on to be more consistent. But even, Castellanos, Moustakas, Suarez, they're all going to be, streakier guys just because of kind of the way their production falls. And that's okay. You just hope they're not all slumping at the same time. And, they can kind of pick each other up. And, hopefully Suarez can do that down the road for the Reds.
Carlos, do you have anything you want to add to that, man?
I think Suarez is going to be fine. He's coming around. You can see him getting more excited, more relaxed, even in the dugout, the way he's approaching, the way he's taking pitches. A couple of ABs where he lined out or hit the ball hard, just missed the ball. Like, you can tell that's a good swing. I remember yesterday he put a really good swing on a ball that he hit. I think it was to right center field yesterday. That was a line shot, and I was like, oh. If I saw that as an opposing pitcher, I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. We're in trouble. Because, that swing was good. He waited on the ball. He went with it. He missed it by a tenth of a second, missed it by a millimeter on the barrel. He's coming around. He's going to be just fine. And if Sam LeCure wants to die on that hill and become a Brenneman, keep at it. Keep at it, buddy. Keep at it. Keep tearing the team you're covering down. You'll be fine.
It was just such a weird time to call for Suarez to be benched. Like I didn't agree with people saying last week, hey, he needs to be benched for a couple days, but I at least understood it. But why would you bench the guy against the Pirates and the Rockies? Like, if any pitching staff is going to get him going, it's the Pirates and then the Rockies and Coors Field. Like, that's where you want him. Now, if come Sunday he's had a terrible series in Colorado, okay, maybe you can look at that next week. But just was such a bizarre week to say you should bench him. Like, this is how you get him going. You're not going to get going sitting on the bench.
Yeah, now's not the time. Whenever you have Joey on the shelf for another 3 or 4 weeks, there's not somebody you can just plug in to make that lineup hold for him to sit 3-4 games. Like, you're gonna put your man out there. You paid him. You want him to produce. Let him produce. Let him work it out. You're not gonna put whoever. I'm not gonna name a name, but you're like put whoever at third base just to fill it in for 3 or 4 weeks so he can get some rest or get his mind right. Like, you need to put those guys out there and let them play. In a perfect world, like last year, Joey was struggling. Like, he didn't need the rest. He needed more ABs to get right. You need more ABs. You need more as a pitcher, like Amir Garrett's been struggling. You need to throw more pitches. It's not less. You have to work that kind of stuff out. And like you said, what better opportunity than against the Rockies and the Pirates and whoever else they have coming up. I mean, he's got to be in a lineup, and I have all the faith in the world in him.
Yeah, I think too much was made of Votto last year. I mean, one of the games that he sat was a doubleheader game,
Right.
So and it was also a 60-game season where you don't have 162 games to figure it out. You don't have to be as I don't know, as desperate or whatever. And to Carlos's point, the Reds had more options last year. They weren't playing replacement level players instead, to fill in. And so I think a couple of those games were against left-handed pitchers too. So I just don't think those two situations, correlate at all to Suarez. Again, if he has a really bad series in Colorado, okay, yeah, maybe you should, sit a couple games and, relax and whatnot. But this is not the time.
Yeah, like where he's
Well,
at
I'll
in the
definitely
lineup
get
right
your
now.
questions up.
Like where he's at in the lineup
keep
right
going,
now,
Carlos,
hitting
I'm sorry.
6. Like where he's at in the lineup right now, hitting 6, like producing every now. Perfect. That's fine. Move him down in the lineup. Don't sit him because he needs the work. He needs the ABs. He needs the repetition. Move him down in the lineup. That's the best case. That's the perfect thing that David Bell did. Not sitting him. Move him down in the lineup. Take the stress off. Relax, go out there, have fun, do what you do, come back. We need you. We'll see you in a little bit.
Well, we'll definitely get to your question right after this, but I have to keep going on Suarez. I'm only asking this question because I know how much Nick loves old man baseball narrative, and I know that he'll probably roll his eyes at this question, but it's been asked already. Do you think he's hitting better because he got moved back to third base?
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think people love to find whatever they can find, whatever reach they can find to why someone's struggling. Sometimes dudes are just struggling because they're struggling, like he wasn't much better through the first 3 weeks of last year. He really struggled out of the gates last year. He wasn't playing shortstop then, and there was, I think, even maybe a deeper lineup last year with more guys, and they had a DH, and so I think that's overblown. But if that makes people feel better, I mean, go for it. I hope Suarez's final line on the year, I hope he hits 199 with an 800 plus OPS, just because I think that would really tick people off, and I would enjoy it.
I agree. I definitely agree.
I want that 199 above average player. Those are my like the Joey Gallo.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Adam Dunn earlier. He'd always throw a 210 out there, but his on base would be 388 and things like that. And it was people still shit on him so much. It's God.
Yeah, Adam never had one of those special 199 above average seasons. He was close, but he never got there. Never got there. Shame.
I think the thing that's jumped out to me the most about Suarez, and we'll move after this. Dude, he's out there playing in Jordan 1s. How about the swagger on the field? I got to give him props for that.
I mean, I just give him props for, his positivity because, man, it's gotta suck being out there, and I'm sure at times he gotta feel like he's on an island, man, I'm not hitting, I'm one of the higher paid guys on this team, but man, every day he's out there, cheering everyone on, just so excited. He every day I feel like, even during the slump, every day I feel like he climbs up my all-time favorite Reds. I just think he's just one of the great Reds personalities of all time, and I'm so happy he's on this team.
I agree. So Will asked, and I'll get both you guys' thoughts on this. How do you guys feel about Castillo? I'm understanding. Will, correct me if I'm wrong here. You're asking in regards to how his stat line hasn't looked the best so far this year, correct? Well,
I'm assuming.
Yeah, we'll run with that. So yeah.
He said yes.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, he was moved up to tomorrow's game against Colorado. Obviously, a pitcher who isn't throwing his best, it's always scary to go to Coors Field. But I don't think I'm at the point yet where, we've talked about this every week, not just about. I don't think I'm at panic level just yet. I think a lot of the situations Nick's brought up, like a lot of coincidental things that have happened, whether it's he gets squeezed on one pitch, the next swing, the guy puts the ball into the gap. It's just little things like that. I do think his velocity being down has been a little surprising so far, but that's something I expect will probably get back up to normal standard in a few years. But I'm not panicking yet on Luis Castillo. Maybe next week in that stretch against the Giants and the Brewers, if he has a couple bad outings there, maybe that's when I'll probably start thinking about it. But right now, I still feel okay.
Yeah, his velocity's down.
Go ahead,
down.
Nick. Sorry.
I'm sorry. His velocity's down a mile from last year, but it's actually ahead of 2019 and 2018. So I don't think there's anything too big to make about that because he was a good pitcher in 18 and 19, and his fastball velocity was actually a little bit lower. Sorry, Carlos, go ahead.
No, I'm not worried about it. I guess now it's kind of on my radar a little bit, just kind of watching a little bit more closely because, the velocity is really not down like y'all just said, but, his stuff isn't quite there yet. Maybe, who knows what's going on? He could have a little nagging injury or something he's trying to get over, which the team won't make public. It could be a variety of things, but right now, I'm not at the point to where I'm panicking or worrying about it because, they've got a number one guy in Sonny. He's going to be right there with him if he's healthy and everything keeps going right. And I have, you've seen the depth on his changeup, on the slider sometimes, the run on his two seams to where it's there. So it's just a matter of him putting it together. Maybe it was just a slow start, and pitchers have that sometimes. Just to answer the question, no, I'm not worried about it yet.
Yeah, I'm not. Honestly, if you made me, gun to my head, who do you think I'm more worried about? I probably would be more worried about Suarez than Castillo. But I'm not really worried that much about either of them. Castillo's strikeouts to this point are the biggest number that's jumps off the table. It's below 7 per 9. I don't see how Luis Castillo is not going to be striking guys out as the season goes on. I think that some teams have probably had some really good scouting reports on him. They've been able to pick up on some things. The defense, like Tim mentioned, has been really terrible during his starts, and has been a big contributor. But the one number, and maybe I'm cherry picking a little bit here, but the one number that I look at that really jumps off is the xFIP, so his expected fielding independent pitching, which is, I won't get into all of it, but pretty much like what is expected ERA should almost be is 4.03. His projection from Zips this year is 3.81, so he's not really that far off. I think that the numbers he put up last year, with that 3.21 ERA, I think that's probably his ceiling. I don't think he's going to be able to put that up every year. I think he's probably more of a mid threes pitcher, which is still really, really, really good. So yeah, I think by the end of the year, his numbers look fine. I would caution everyone in Coors Field, if he gives up, two runs in the first inning, don't panic. It's Coors Field. If he gives you 7 innings of 4 runs in Coors Field, I'm going to sign up for that. I think that would be a fine start. So
it's so hard to pitch in Coors Field. That ball does not come off your fingers the same way. It's such a difference than pitching there or pitching in the Midwest where the ball's just sticky off your hand. It's such a difference. So whatever happens in Coors Field, I'm going to take it with stride. But with Castillo, just seeing him pitch and the last several years and what he's doing right now, and being around pitchers like him, like Johnny Cueto, other Dominican and Venezuelan pitchers, you see these guys, they rely so much on the flow of the game and how people, look at them. Are they a dominant pitcher? And sometimes they get complacent. I was a victim to that as well. I've seen many other pitchers who are like, you're going good. Okay, I'm good. I'm expected to be good. I just got to go out there and pitch. And I think he's running into a rough patch to where I'm thinking he's going to be like, all right, MFers, you think you got me. Here I come. I'm coming back now. I'm buckling down. Like, I really feel like that's how he's going to be. And I'm looking forward to the rest of, the next couple of months watching him pitch, because I know he's going to come back.
Carlos, one thing I want to ask you, I'm curious. Do you think the transition from the 60-game season to the 162 could have impacted him, kind of from your point to where last year he came this season, oh man, I only got 10, 12 starts. I got to come out full guns a-blazing. Whereas this year he's kind of like, oh, I got 32 starts this year. I can kind of, ease into it. Do you think there could be anything into that?
Only reason I don't think so is because out there pitching, he's pitched for another contract.
Yeah.
Him pitching like he has right now, he knows that's not helping him. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, after these starts, bad start after bad start, he's going to start buckling down, man. He's going to start getting nasty because he knows what's at stake here. At some point, you got to look at yourself at the mirror and be like, okay, maybe I'm giving it 90%, 95%. I've got this much more left in the tank. I got to do it now. I got to go. And he's going to challenge himself. And from what I've heard, he works hard and he wants to get better. And I have all the confidence that he's going to do that because, you see the flashes of the innings, the pitches, the at-bats, like, it's there. So it's just putting it all together, remaining focused and knowing what he needs to do.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off your earlier comment, Carlos, about the fact that they have a number one already in Sonny Gray, he's going to be right there with them. I think the other reassuring thing there too is he knows when he gets going that 1, 2, 3 is going to be just fine. Because Tyler Mahle, obviously, we've seen just the growth he's had this year, minus the Cubs game. But that was just a crazy game. I think that's one of those pitching games where you could just throw it out the window and kind of look at the other ones, especially Monday night. Mahle got in that jam, I think, in the third inning where the bases were loaded, and he got out of it. And it was you're seeing that growth, that development. So when Luis gets clicking, and you see what you're getting from those two, I think Luis understands how much that brings the team up. So, yeah, I'm totally with you as far as that having that comfort level. Those other guys doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, I guess we can touch real quick because we do have this. So by the next time we record, the Reds will have played 4 games with the Rockies, and they have a couple games with San Francisco. For those who haven't looked at the standings of Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies are a half game behind the Detroit Tigers right now for the worst record in baseball. Obviously, there's an article that comes out today from MLB.com. We're talking about Trevor Story being traded where he could go. The Reds ended up on that list. As we've all said, dream big, more than likely not going to happen. But this isn't exactly a great major league team. They're playing a doubleheader right now against San Diego, and so they don't even know who's starting Saturday. But if you want to see what's going on, so the Reds have Luis Castillo going tomorrow against Chichi Gonzalez. Friday they've got Wade Miley going against is it Jermaine Marquez? I don't know if I ever say it.
Herman.
And then Mahle against, we don't know yet. And then Sunday we have
Chris Welsh said he thought that was going to be a bullpen game on the broadcast today for the Rockies.
And then Sunday we have they have Antonio Senzatela going against Jeff Hoffman, who, although has not pitched very well lately, does get to pitch against his former team, but also at a Park he struggled in majority of his career. So, look, we've all talked about it already. Playing in Coors Field, things are just different. But you suspect the Reds should be good enough to, they'll be able to compete in those games. Obviously, the way they hit the ball, a lot of balls go in the gap at Coors Field. Like Carlos mentioned, it's not the easiest place to throw the ball by any means. But when you look at this series, knowing that the Reds are is it fair to say significantly better than the competition, or just better, depending how you want to look at it? You got to think, winning what 2 of the 4, you got to feel good with coming home for the Giants series.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should at least split. Winning 3 of 4 is not as easy as I think people make it out to be, no matter how good or bad the Rockies are. The Rockies do have a winning record at home this year. So they tend to play much, much better. If you look throughout their whole history, even during some of their bad seasons, they do play much, much better at home. So it's a hard ballpark to get wins at. The Reds have never had an easy time there. So I think if you got 2 out of 4, I think you'd say, hey, this is a fine week. I think, hey, you went 1-5 against the Diamondbacks. This is a great time to pick up some games. I hope that's the mentality. And you hope you can win 3 of 4. But anyone thinking they should go into Colorado and sweep the Rockies, that's a reach for sure.
Ideal, but yes, definitely a reach.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if they do, great, phenomenal. I mean, we'd be thrilled. But it goes back like winning 2 or 3 against the Pirates. Like, yeah, they're a bad team, but these teams win 50 or 60 games somehow. Like, they don't all beat up on the other bad teams all year. We all watched the 2016,
They're
2017
still Major
Reds.
League Baseball players,
right? Yeah,
like they had good stretches. I don't think enough people realize, like, if the Reds played the Louisville Bats, like, they would lose to them occasionally. Like, they wouldn't just beat them every night. This isn't football where you just can out physical, the other team. Like, it's baseball. It happens.
Yeah, exactly. Carlos, let me ask you this, because you talked about, like, and I'm just curious for this insight that you've pitched there, so you know what it's like there. Like you said, like, it sucks to throw the ball there at times. What is that? Do you guys, like, when you're ready to go to Coors Field? Obviously, your time in San Diego. You guys were in the same division, so you went there a handful of times. Is there, like, a meeting that's, like, different about pitching to Coors Field compared to everyone else? Do you, like, know, like, do they tell you what to expect a little more than when you pitch at, like, say, Dodger Stadium in Chavez Ravine? Or, is it just kind of like, look, this is probably going to suck because of the altitude here?
No, they don't really, talk about your certain pitches or anything like that, or how the ball's going to come off your hand. It's just a known, like, this is the way that it is. Make sure you're careful. Don't try to overspin anything. That's the main thing, because even in a dry, humid climate, if you try to overspin, all it's going to do is hang up there. So just trust your pitches, and just try to execute the best that you can. I'm saying, man, it's a big difference for a pitcher. Like, you're going to see, now that they have, you can see the numbers on the spin, and it's like, I'm curious to see the way it is, for somebody like TJ Antone to pitch, or Sims with so much spin velocity, to see what it would be like, in the middle of summer in Cincinnati. Like, I want to see the difference of those numbers, because it's got to be huge. And, like, to answer your question, there is nothing that they talk about. It's just, kind of be just a little bit more careful on what you're doing.
I think, does it kind of get into to pitchers' heads a little bit? Pitching there kind of is a mental thing as much as anything else.
I think maybe if you're not an established guy, it might. Somebody like me, it kind of probably might get in there to where you're like, oh shit, I can't leave this fastball over the heart of the plate. I should probably be on the black, but a good established pitcher knows that outfield is huge. If they're going to hit a home run, it's going to be a home run pretty much at any park anyway. So just let your outfielders play. Just do what you do. If you start thinking about what a ball is going to do when it's hit, then you're already screwed anyway. So just pitch your game, go after it, and we'll see what happens afterwards. That's the mentality that you're given. That's the only way that you can approach it. Like, you can't approach it hoping that something doesn't happen or this might happen. It's just pitch your game, have confidence, and let's go and see what happens.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to throw strikes there, or that's how you get those 15-run games is because, you walk 2 or 3 guys,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't be worried about a solo home run there. That is what it is. It's going to happen, or a ball into the gap.
Yeah.
That's the thing I think that scares me most about this Reds team, especially, some of the bullpen arms, is the high walk rate. That's what kills you more than anything at Coors Field, is if you walk guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quick little side note on my personal career. I actually, whenever, I had a screwball, so no matter how many times I threw it in the off season, spring training, whatever, it never came together. It always took me 2 to 3 weeks to throw it in game. Okay, now I got it. Let's roll. And by the time I got that, it was in Coors Field, and it was in the bullpen, and I started throwing my screwballs wow, oh shit, I got it in the bullpen. Coach was like, oh shit. But, I had a good outing. I gave up an opposite field home run to Torey Alba. I forget his first name. Torey Alba. What the? I was like, what the hell?
Alba.
How did that ball get out? But I found my screwball. I was like, all right, I'm here. I'm gonna stay. I got it. But I was already on waivers by then, so brr.
you struck out. I found the box score. You struck out Brad Hopp, and you got Troy Tulowitzki out on a ground out.
Oh man, I was so confident going into that. I was like, oh shit, I got it. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. But by then I was already on the waivers and I didn't know it yet. And shit.
Well, the good news is the Padres were down 7-1, so I don't think you thwarted the ninth inning comeback.
I was thinking about those 3 years where Ubaldo Jimenez was really good, pitching there for his home ballpark. How the hell he did it. 2010 Ubaldo Jimenez, I don't know if anyone remembers, he was incredible. But 2008, 2009 he was pretty good too. But yeah, I always was curious. He had a 2.88 in 2010 where he was a Cy Young candidate. I saw him pitch in person right after the All-Star break against the Reds. And that was the one guy I'm always man, I never saw someone keep the ball down as much as he did there. Jeff Francis was all right there, but when you look at his numbers, you're oh God.
Yeah, 2.88 ERA in Coors Field. That's I don't know how you don't win the Cy Young with that. Roy Halladay won that year, so I guess that had something to do with it.
Yeah. That's all we need to remember about 2010. We don't have to talk anymore about what Halladay did. Such a fun year. But yeah.
Bronson Arroyo got a vote that year, though, so that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I did want to talk about Bronson before we get out of here. Made his radio debut, calls a no-hitter. We talked about it a little bit over our group text. Thought he did a pretty good job calling the game for his first time. Thought he did he did a good job talking about what a pitcher's looking for and what he's trying to figure out. He talked about his Francona stories when they were in Boston together. I was pretty impressed with him.
Yeah, I put the game on and I synced up the radio. I thought he did a great job. Just it was a really enjoyable, listen to the game, and of course, what a great game to get, getting Wade Miley's no hitter. He said some stuff during the broadcast that made me think, yeah, Bronson is not going to do this full time. He does not want to be, looking up stats and writing down notes about different players, But I do think he enjoyed as a fill-in. And I hope he does. I hope maybe he, joins Reds Live. Maybe I think he'd be really great in that role. I think people would love him in that. I'm guessing he'd probably give a little more praise to Suarez. So hey, I'd be all about that.
Yeah, why can't he do that? Because Barry does the same thing, and he calls every home game.
Yeah,
he doesn't do any research or anything.
At least it felt like Bronson was giving me some insight into what Wade Miley was thinking.
Yeah, there was a lot less of Bronson saying, "Oh, well, this is what I did," or "Whenever I pitched," or "This is what I thought," or "I, me." Oh,
I loved there was a game a couple weeks ago where Sadak was talking about Winker, and just he's his numbers are up here, and Barry's like, Well, yeah, and so is his confidence. And it's like, that's such an old man baseball conversation. Just such an old man baseball thing to say. Like, we get it. You don't want to accept, like, the future, but man.
Yeah, there's so much with Barry. I mean, I think I've maybe shook his hand once or twice, but I don't know the guy. And, talking with Joey, he respects the heck out of him when they start talking baseball and stuff like that. But on air, I was like, oh, whenever they made the announcement that he was going to be there full time, I was like, oh gosh, so many people are going to be disappointed with their hero.
I feel like he'd be fine if he did maybe like a 30 game package, where it was kind of spread out throughout the year. Because I like him, I do. The thing I guess appreciate more than I thought I would is he is pretty positive,
Yeah, he is.
which just for what we're used to, anyone who's positive just feels so great. So I'll give him that. At least he said a lot of really positive things about Votto when he was struggling. So I do appreciate that aspect of it. But I mean, for 81 games a year, I mean, you just have a guy in Chris Welsh who's so well prepared, who takes it so seriously. It's just, it's a hard sell to push him back a little bit.
Well, yeah. So, Carlos, you mentioned like your hero. Like, literally, I have a signed Barry Larkin jersey hanging up in my basement. Like, one of my first baseball heroes. So yes, but also, just from like working around Xavier and like getting to know Byron, his brother Byron, who played basketball at Xavier a little bit. Byron, and Nick can attest this as a Xavier fan, Barry's brother Byron does so much research, literally up till tip off. We'll be sitting in media rooms and he's still learning about players, so he's prepared for the broadcast. If he does any bit of the conversation that Byron does getting prepared for a game, I think Barry will do really well there.
Maybe he needs to come hang out with Byron for a game and watch him prepare for next year.
Yeah. Byron's always been really nice to me as the little blogger guy in the corner. He's always made sure he said hi to me, so he'll always get respect from me.
There you go.
All right, Nick. I guess we have this final topic because you got a Twitter question this week, and we definitely have to ask it because that clock is obviously ticking at the end of arbitration for the National League's leading hitter and Jesse Winker. And you were asked, and forgive me, the user, I do not recall who asked the name. I'll look it up later and make sure you get your props. Someone asked you, should the Reds start to get serious about extending Jesse Winker?
Hold on, let me go grab another beer.
I thought that was a really, really good question. I thought that'd be a fun topic. Obviously when you see a player like Winker break out, that's the first place, everyone goes is, man, we got to extend him. So just to preface this, Winker has 2 years left after this one of Reds control. He's making about $3 million this year. I'm not an arbitration expert, but I'm guessing that probably goes up to 7.5 next year and about $10 million the year after that. So in a perfect world, you would love to buy out those 2 arbitration years. Just go ahead and, get those settled. Maybe you pay him a little more than what you think he would get, to make him feel good. And then maybe you extend him 2 more years. So his contract ends. His first free agent will be his age 30 season. So I'd be all about the Reds, trying to extend him, get him his age 30, 31 season. I don't know about, looking at a 4 or 5 year in addition to what the Reds already have. So extending him 7 years out. I don't know about that. I just, the Reds with where they are and what they can spend, I think if you're going to, spend that kind of money that it would take to extend him, I think that money's probably better spent at a, more crucial position like shortstop, because you see how difficult the Reds have had trying to find a legit shortstop. I just, as good as Winker is, he plays left field and he doesn't play a great defense in left field. And even if there's a DH, those players are more replaceable. Maybe not exactly at Winker's level, but maybe not as far off. I mean, you look like a guy like Jesus Aguilar. The Marlins just picked him up. Tyler Naquin. The Reds just picked him up. You can find those players for like those corner positions or first base or DH. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely would be open for the Reds looking at maybe buying out the 2 arbitration years and then 1 or 2. But I don't know why Winker would want that deal. If I was Winker, I'd be like, when I get to free agency, I can probably get a 4 or 5 year deal. I want that, or I want to go to free agency and let other teams bid on me. So I don't see how that probably works out. I don't think there's anything wrong with having Winker for 2 more years, his prime years. And if in 2023 things are going bad, you could always look at trading him and see what you can get. But even if it's not, you get those compensation picks, and those are super valuable. So I don't think it's the end of the world just to have a player now that is of that caliber that you just you write out their contract, you get that compensation pick, you thank them, and you move on.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like that situation, like you mentioned, like besides like Votto and Bruce, I don't know if like that's been a good idea to sign those guys to long term. Like, not that they're the same player by any means, but do you remember like Frazier towards his end of like Reds control? That's when he was like really good for a stretch, and then like since he left the Reds, he's been pretty brutal. And so
I mean, Todd Frazier was legit thought of as like one of the top stars in the game. I think he was a little bit older because he came up really late. So I think he's probably like 2 years older than Winker. I don't have it right in front of me, but yeah, I mean, you saw just how quickly he fell off a cliff. Man, you gotta if you're gonna with the Reds with their financial situation, you gotta make sure that you don't miss on ones like that. I don't know if I'd be at this point, jumping to sign a 4 or 5 year deal. Let's see a little bit more. I'd probably be jumping more at Luis Castillo while he's struggling, to be honest. Those are the guys you want to target.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think maybe, just curious of your thought process here, and we'll get out of here after this. Do you think you're going to see teams kind of back away from kind of making those decisions more after like, the Tigers are a perfect example right now. The contract that Miguel Cabrera has is brutal. People want to talk about how bad Pujols' Angels contract was. Miguel Cabrera's contract is atrocious. But granted, at the time they signed it, the Tigers were AL contenders. They were playing for a World Series. But do you think you're going to see teams kind of back away from those like scary deals like that from now on?
Yeah, to an extent. I think we've probably seen the last days of the Pujols Cabrera signings. Votto was signed at a younger age than either one of those guys, and that's why he's still a productive player with 2 years left in his deal. So yeah, I think so. I think you're probably going to see players of that age get more of those Trevor Bauer type deals where they're massive yearly contracts of like $40 million, but they're shorter years. But you're still going to see some of these GMs convince owners, hey, we got to sign, we got to make the sign. It's the only way we can get him. Because these GMs are thinking about, hey, I'm not going to be here when this guy's contract ends. How many GMs are actually with the team at the end of the contract? Not many. So they're still going to be trying to convince the owners to do it. It's just, I guess, it probably falls more on the owners than the GMs to put an axe to that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like, I think the contracts going past age 34 are going to be a lot slimmer, but paying for ages, 28 to 32 are going to be. That's going to cost a lot of money for those type of players, and for like Winker. I mean, as much as I like watching the guy hit and play, I think he's at his peak right now. Like, I think, athletically, he's at his peak. He's not going to do any more defensively. I think it's going to be a struggle for him to move to first base just because his athletic ability and his speed and his quickness is going to defer him from being able to play that position. And it's not as easy as people think it is just to go move over to first base. There's a lot of responsibility there. I would like to see, I think, what did you say, Nick? He's got 2 more years left under control?
Yeah, 2 more years of control.
So maybe add another 3, give that offer out there and see if he takes it. It's got to be kind of like a low ball offer, kind of like almost like a Eugenio contract. Like they signed him, and that's a pretty good deal. Those are the kind of contracts that I think they're going to be given out, and it just depends on what a player's personal, financial situation is. Are they going to be happy with $100 million, or are they going to try to bet on themselves to get $200 million? Because that's a big, big gamble. That's a lot of money to gamble with. You got to be very confident in yourself to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and turn this 5-year, $100 million down. I'm going to go for 200 because I'm going to perform really well the next couple of years. That's a lot to ask out of yourself. So, man, that's tough. Like, I hope the Reds make that offer. I hope he takes it, but at the same time, you got to respect him if he decides not to take it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also do think it's fair to point out, Ethan Connolly in the chat did point out the Lindor and Tatis obviously signed some insane deals this year for the Mets and the Padres, but also, I feel like those guys are kind of the upper echelon of the next generation of baseball, though Tatis hasn't been, I guess Machado really hasn't been the most spectacular this year. Carlos, you watch the Padres more than I do, obviously. But I'll ask you this, Carlos, before we do sign out, because I know I've been seeing your tweets, and I believe you're now the flag bearer of the Shohei Ohtani fan club. If you were the GM of the Angels, how much money would you be paying him right now?
Fuck. That's my answer. I don't know, man. I mean, how old is he?
26.
26? I mean, 300?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy 300, I think, right?
It's unbelievable.
I don't know, man. That guy he's a unicorn. He's special. I don't know who else is going to be anything close to that. Just think how excited we got with Lorenzen. Being able to pitch out of the bullpen and mix a couple innings here and there in the outfield. He had an AB, hit 1 home run. This dude is striking out 12, batting leadoff the next day. Stealing bases, out beating infield singles. They need to throw that money at him now because it's only going to get worse.
He's only making $3 million this year.
Now that is a crime.
Yeah, they have him for 2 more years after this one. Man, remember the Reds made a heavy push for him, and just the fact that they got Akiyama, kind of makes me think they maybe actually had a chance for Ohtani. I think he wanted to play for an American League team though, so that probably eliminated the Reds. But I think if he would have gone to a National League team, I think the Reds might have had a chance.
Let's not tease our fans with that. Nick, come on.
Yeah, because I think wasn't it they had Joey record a video for him or something? I think it was the story that C. Trent put out.
Yeah, they had a whole binder, and I think didn't C. Trent get to see it or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Gosh.
Yeah. Well, thanks to C. Trent and Carlos, we now know the story of Joey Mappo. So that was awesome to read. So we've gone a little longer than we normally do. Thanks to everyone, Will, Ethan, for everyone for joining the chat and listening to us talk. We've obviously had a lot of fun with this Reds team this week. And then we'll be back next week after during the series with the Giants. It's my last episode before I get married. So how about that? It's going to be pretty exciting to do that with you guys one more time before I go to the dark side. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Carlos, Nick, always appreciate it. Everyone, thanks again.
I have to axe the dark side because I think my wife listens to this podcast. So I do not agree with Tim's statement there. I vehemently disagree with it.
That's fair. And you should.
Comment. My wife also lives. No comment.
Everyone
She
have
would
a
say
good
the
night.
same thing.
Have a good night, everyone. We'll talk soon.